We are live. So, welcome everyone. Really excited to have everyone here. And this morning, I'm going to be talking with Sabrina Shafer, who is the CEO of Transformation Continuum. And Sabrina and I actually wrote this guide called The Unwritten Rules for Women in Tech together. And she's going to be talking today about owning your career, which was a piece of the guide, and really how she's been able to own her career up to a CEO level. So, Sabrina, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are?
Yeah. Hi, Jillian. Hi, everyone who's live with us. This is so fun. I love these kinds of things. It's funny. I was just talking to a friend of mine, actually Adele, and she said, "Oh, we were just talking about our college and things like that." And she said, "Oh, what did you study?" And I said, "Psychology and politics." And we got a good laugh out of it because it really has nothing to do with where we are now, what I do now. But really, if you think about it, it really has everything to do with what I do now. So, I started way back. My career really started in behavioral analysis and understanding what people, are motivated by, what reinforces them, why people behave the way they do, and how do you shape behavior. So my job was literally to analyze behavior and write plans on how do you shape that behavior to more, functional behavior. So little did I know how much that would play into marketing and building campaigns and helping the world realize the possibilities of technology. And then after that, I shortly thereafter went to law school, really focused on litigation. Ironically, too, you have to learn how to tell stories in very short, succinct ways that are, and finding information faster and better than the person next to you, right? So it's funny how life kind of takes you on this journey, but your skills compile. And then from there, I actually was working for a technology company. I was representing them, and they asked me to come onto their leadership side, side of the house, and the rest is history. And here I am. Later years later, we are now at Continuum.
That's amazing. It sounds like it's been a long journey, and I feel like not a lot of us study exactly what we're going to execute on in our future. And obviously, our careers change and take different paths than maybe we thought they would, or maybe you're on the same path throughout your whole career. But either way, whatever you decide, you have to take ownership of your career. So, when did you take ownership, and do you feel like there was a turning point, or have you always just been like a boss and owned your career? Like, how does that work? How do you
Thank
make that
you.
shift, or do you just start that way? It's just innate.
You know what? I don't think it was for me. I think it's very much learned for me. I think that there are some people who just naturally have it, but as we keep kind of growing into ourselves and honing those skills, I think we get better at it. I very much, remember the time I really decided this is my career. I get to decide what I want to do and what I stand for. Long story short, I was working at an organization, and I was really high up. I was on their executive leadership staff, and they put me on their board. And I'd come into some information that they were doing some things unethical. Let's say it like that. And I remember that moment. It hit. It was, when you feel like your heart is like especially beating fast and heavy, and it was just overwhelming. And I remember thinking to myself, what am I going to do? And really it came down to how much is your soul worth? How much is your life worth? And that's when I decided, you know what? Took me about 30 minutes. I called my mentor. I'm a big advocate of call mentors, call people you trust. As you know, it's in the guide. Um, and I said, what do I do? And he said, you know exactly what you need to do. You know what you stand for. And to be honest, it was scary. They very much tried to, kind of, it had a lot of negative impacts. But then eventually what happened is I was able to, really kind of grow into where I wanted to be and start doing things that were really exciting for me, and really fun. Yeah.
So, do you feel like it was that like something kind of scary and bad happen that made you realize that you had that piece of ownership? Like, is that kind of the turning point for you?
I think so. I think we all kind of have this moment where you get to decide in life, what do I stand for? What's important to me? And
Mhm.
I really was making good money, and I could have just kept my mouth shut and there was something in me that said I can't. I meant for something bigger,
Mhm.
something different. And it was really scary. It was terrifying. But that's what kind of pushed me to really understand what my boundaries were and what I'm excited and passionate about. So it was worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and, I
Yeah.
always say this, like, great things never came from comfort zones, right? So that moment was clearly super uncomfortable for you, but it
Yes.
kinda shaped how you decided the rest of your career was gonna go and taking ownership. So, why is it important that someone take ownership of their career? And if they haven't had that pivotal moment yet, should they sit around and wait for it? Or like how can they do that? Like the why and the how behind it.
That's a great question. I think, we were just talking about it because you're building habits. The more you kind of advocate for yourself, the better you get at it. The more you listen to what you're good at and get excited about it, the better you get at it. The more you build excellent teams and have amazing client relationships, the better you get at it. So there's an internal investment, which I'm all for, but there's also an external investment. You're at your best when you're giving back and when you're able to build great products, great teams, great results. At the end of the day, I think us playing small doesn't help the world grow. you know
Yeah.
that's the value. There's no point of us playing small for us or for the world. So I think that's the value. That's where it's at.
And what would you say to women who feel like they haven't, or anyone really who feels like they haven't taken ownership yet, right? Like, that's like like how do you even start? Like it's so inspiring to hear you say that. But I always say to people like don't be inspired, take action, right? So what's the action that they can take to take that ownership? Like what are the cuz you can't just like go 0 to 100, that's overwhelming. So how do you get to 10 and 20 and 30 on your way to 100?
Yeah, don't quit your job without a job lined up. Take it from me. Don't do it. Not that everyone's unethical or whatever, but yeah, you're right. Don't go 0 to 100. That's scary. No need for that. But um and I mean, coming from an execution machine like you, I get it, right? What do you do about this? I think first and foremost, at least for me, everyone's different. That's what's so funny about these things is I'm just telling you what worked for me, and some things that I heard and some things that I read because I really trust a lot of great mentors. And so
Mm.
for me, when I did that, when I quit the job with no job lined up, I remember talking to a friend of mine over at Cisco, and he said, you would be great in this kind of a role, and it was a great role, but I remember thinking like, no, there's nothing about me that wants to do that, and what's cool about that though is that was the moment I realized I do know what I want, because if you know what you don't want, you're at least a little closer to what you do want. And that was a big, powerful moment. So I think even if you just need a baby step, that was a baby step for me, which is weird because I took a giant step and then a baby step. So, pick your order wisely, I guess. But I would say, start something little, figure out what you want, figure out what means something to you. I think you can have fun at work. I think you can work with amazing people. I think you can continue to grow and invest in yourself and give back at the same time. So figure out what's important to you. That's super actionable. Write it down. Yeah,
Figure out
write it
what's
down.
important and then speak up, right? Like you have to tell
Yeah.
people. They're not mind readers.
Yes.
Um, I remember talking about that. Like, I felt like I didn't take ownership of my career for probably the first 14 years. And I was like, I'm doing great work. Why am I not getting where I want to be? Because in my mind, my managers and executive team had ESP. They don't, like, just an FYI.
Right,
You don't
right.
tell them, they don't know, right?
Yes.
So write it down and then got to tell someone. And just a little plug, in 2 weeks, Sabrina keeps talking about mentors, but we'll be having Eugenia Jordan on here to talk about how to find a great cheerleader and a great mentor. So that's coming up.
Yeah, stay tuned. She's awesome. She's just brilliant. She's really good people. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, she's
super
fun.
excited for that. So, kind of as a closing out, I would love to learn a little bit about what inspired you to help women, right? Because you've had a super successful career, you've had, these huge pivotal moments, you've done a lot of different things, from lawyer to CEO and everything in between. Why do you think it's important to pay it forward and help others? And how can other people do the same?
That's how we met. That's what I love about our friendship is that we can be honest about it and say, you were doing something cool on LinkedIn. And all I did was just message you. I don't even remember what I said. It was just top of mind. I said, hey, I think this is really cool what you're doing. Something like that. I think to answer your first question, why do I do it is because it's fun. Because it really is fun. One of my favorite quotes, I talk about it all the time because it's like a life hack, is from Warren Buffett. He said, love's an interesting thing. The more you give, the more you get back. And I think that applies to everything, good and bad. And I don't know about karma or any of that, but I'm just saying in my life, it's always been true that the more you hang out with good people who inspire you, who push you, who make you think, who text you at 10:30 at night, hey, I've got a crazy idea. Let's talk at 5:30 tomorrow morning. That's cool for me. I like that. I love seeing, I just yesterday had a friend call me. She's doing this podcast with this influencer. She's really excited about it. Who doesn't want to get that call? Who doesn't want to be that person to say, you know what, good for you? And frankly, the reason why you and I wrote the Unwritten Rules is because I was and am a female millennial in tech. And there's not a lot of us. And so I just noticed that there were all these rules as a behavioral analyst. See, it finally paid off, mom. But I just noticed that there were these rules that everyone kind of knew, but I didn't. And so I stumbled along, and I'm sure you did the same. So it's like, why wouldn't we all kind of build ourselves up and, have some fun doing it, work with some great people and do some big things. So,
Yeah.
short
Yeah.
answer is it's fun because I want to.
Yeah, yeah. And that pay it
Right?
forward mentality you have, right? Like it sounds like you've had some really amazing mentors, people you've been able to call. Maybe not everyone has that yet, right? So maybe the guide is a good place to start. And there is a section in there about finding your
Mhm.
cheerleader. But it's really important that you believe in yourself too, because you can't just have someone like pumping you along. You've got to like shift your mindset to know that you are amazing because you are amazing. Like everyone is amazing and you have a lot to give. So, um, you
And
know,
there's always more. There's always more. I love, like you said, right before that mentorship section, there's a resource section. There's a ton of free resources. One of our top 10 tips is keep learning because there's so much more that you, like I talk about, is you kind of grow into yourself. And that's the really cool part is you kind of grow and develop together and build these really amazing networks. So there's another actionable thing is find a mentor. Just reach out to a few people on LinkedIn. Ask a few people that you trust and that you really admire, and want to be similar to.
yeah,
Yeah.
being
What do
bold.
you find works? Yeah, what works for you? I mean, you're great at this.
What works for me? I mean, I would say like being bold and sending those scary emails and those scary messages. And if you need to like send that email and then walk away because you're nervous about like the response, then do that. That's okay, right? Like I still get really nervous about sending messages and emails to executives. And that's normal to feel that way, like feel like a knot in the pit, not in the pit of your stomach.
Yes. You're asking
Yeah,
an
and be like,
immigrant. How do I know?
oh,
Yeah.
this is scary. But you've got to take those bold, scary steps, especially if you want to like stand out and really share what you're worth. And one thing that you said to me in one of our first conversations was that I believe you can build a team of top performers. I believe everyone can be in the top 10% because everyone has different skills. So everyone can be in the top 10% of their skills. And that's really stuck with me because I think when you take the competition piece out of it and you focus on you and helping others, you're going to see like so much more growth. And, if you really make sure that your team is talked up and shown how amazing they are, it's going to only make you look better. Like, I think that old mentality of, oh, well, if I talk up this person, it makes me look bad. Opposite. It's the opposite. Like, it's going to make you grow as a person, and maybe you'll learn from something from that person, and that person's probably going to reciprocate someday. And how awesome is that? Like, that's how you build amazing teams that work awesome together and aren't in constant competition.
Right.
I'm on a team like that now. We all have like amazing different skills and super high performers. And it is awesome to work on a team like that.
And I just talked to somebody who is a peer to you, and she was saying, Jillian is doing all this great stuff from a marketing perspective, and she was telling me about it, so I want to do it too. That's the art of the subtle brag, right? That is lifting up other women as you're saying, I did this, you can do it too. And that's exactly it. It wasn't a competition. It was, hey, let's all celebrate together because we all get better together. And it's so true, isn't it? When you're in competition, you start to kind of narrow in your vision, but also your future. It just sort of tunnels you. Where if you kind of expand, it does the same thing to your network, to your opportunities, to your friendships. It just, where your focus is what your future will be,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I haven't always worked on teams that all support each other, but I'll tell you, when you can get a team like that, like,
Mhm.
there's nothing like it. I mean, it's
Yeah,
really, it's life changing. It makes work so much more pleasant. Everyone works together and you work harder. You work smarter, not harder, because you each like know what each other's strengths are, and you can phone a friend for help and not feel like, oh, well, if I get help from this person, it makes me look bad. No, certainly doesn't.
right, right.
Certainly doesn't. Use their
Yeah,
strengths to your advantage.
yeah.
Bounce ideas off of them, and always give credit. Like, always. I am a huge cheerleader. And I always talk someone up. And I think that's extremely important for your growth as well as the person's, but your growth as well. So
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I completely agree. I think what's interesting about all of this is it's not as altruistic as it sounds. You really benefit yourself from all of this. That's what's so crazy. It's like, oh, it's not all, peace, love, happiness. Not that that's bad, but it's really beneficial. There's a lot of neuroscience behind what happens. I know, not to geek out, but there really is a lot of there
there you
really is a
go.
lot of studies behind this that teams truly do innovate better. There's a lot even in our own world, right? As we see in AI, how it's expanding because you see teams working better together. I mean, there's so much behind this. You're right. I know, I see you laughing. I will not geek out about this, but I'm glad we're talking about it. It's not just, peace, love, happiness. It is science as well. So the two worlds shall meet again.
There you go. There you go. Well, this was awesome. I just want to say thank you. And of course, if you haven't checked out the Unwritten rules, be sure to check it out. We'll post the link for you all. It's also under unwrittenguides.com. You can just go there. It is a free download. And feel free to share it with a friend, send a link, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yeah. Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Bye.